Can we see the intro?
Yep.
Okay. Man, the bass. I still like that intro. I hate the way I look on that thing.
I think that's probably your favorite part of the show.
I like the little
That's what
swipe
it is.
there.
That's what it is.
Hey, welcome back to the Marked Up Show. Man, we got a great show, as always, today. KV is here with me.
Hey.
We will be talking with the one and only Wess Moore.
Yes.
Now, here's an interesting story before we get started. I always called him by his middle name, Glenn.
Were you supposed to do that?
But I'm going to say Wess today
Okay.
because we still go by, we got to be
As
professional.
long as he's okay with it.
I was surprised when I just called him to say I was here. He answered the phone. He can use my name. Usually, every time he calls, he's like,
Glenn.
I'm like, what's up, man? You're professional or something now.
That's it. Fox 16
All
sports
right.
director. The man is in the building. And first, I want to jump into it. I mean, because for people who don't know you, tell them about yourself, where you're from, that type of stuff. What you
Grew up in East Texas, Jacksonville, Texas. It's by Tyler and Longview. Not a small town, probably about 14,000 people or so. Went to junior college there in Jacksonville, Lon Morris College. It's no longer there.
Wow.
It closed down probably about 5 years ago or so. But, went there, hometown college for 2 years, and went to Texas State University. Back then, it was Southwest Texas State University.
Wow.
Kind of aging myself. When I first went there, it was Southwest Texas State University. Then
Right.
while I was there, they dropped State University and just made it Southwest
West
Texas,
Texas.
and went with SWT because when I first got there, it was SWATSU, SWTSU.
Okay.
And then they changed it after I leave to Texas State University.
Wow.
So I still call
That
it
would've been
Southwest
simple.
Texas from time to time, or Southwest Texas State University, and then correct myself and call it
Uh-huh.
Texas State.
It's kind of like Louisiana Monroe. It was ULM for a minute, and then it was University. That's the University of Louisiana.
That's
They say
Lafayette, Louisiana Lafayette. Yeah,
then
they were
Louisiana
the Raging
Lafayette,
Cajuns.
yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
Louisiana. We called them Lafayette, and then they want to be
Changed.
called Louisiana, and then that made everybody at LSU mad because they're Louisiana
Louisiana
State
State.
University,
Yeah.
and they just want to be Louisiana University.
Right.
So, I resisted for a while and called them Louisiana Lafayette because I didn't think anybody here knew who I was talking about if I called them Louisiana.
Yeah.
But, when somebody wants to be called something, I'll do it. If
Yeah.
you want to be called Brad, I'll call you Brad, even though we know you're Mark. But, Little Rock's going through that. UALR,
Yeah.
the athletic department wants to be known as the Little Rock Trojans.
Trojans.
The newspaper doesn't want to recognize them and still calls them UALR.
UALR.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? If they want to be called Little Rock, call them Little Rock. It's not that hard.
I didn't know the newspaper didn't want to recognize it.
Well,
What is up with that?
yeah. And when people say, "Where'd you graduate from?" UALR. I thought it was a little.
But you know what?
It's just the athletic department,
yeah.
though. The university still goes by
So
UALR, but the athletic department is Little Rock
Rock
Trojans.
Trojans.
I still remember when ASU was the ASU Indians, and man, Alvin Robertson's son, who played football for him at the time, who went played pro ball, he was a second round pick or something like that. But when he left, they named it the Red Wolves. They moved from the Indians to the Red Wolves. He said, "I don't care what they name it. I'm gonna call it the Indians from now on."
Funny story. When I type in and go to their website, I still type in ASUindians.com, and it redirects you to their website.
yeah.
But I can just type in ASU, and it autofills to ASU Indians. It still works.
Still there.
Okay, so you get here now. What little backstory people don't know? You were doing news in Victoria.
I was a news reporter. I started in Ada, Oklahoma. I worked there for 15 months. Went to Shreveport. I worked in Shreveport for about 3.5 years in news, weekend anchor, the morning anchor. That's when I met my wife, Allison Courtney. She was hired as my morning producer.
All right.
And then she and I moved to Victoria, Texas. I was the main news anchor for the 6 and 10 News.
Right.
And you know how big high school football is in Texas. So on Friday nights, they would send me out to the game of the week. And we had one live truck, and I'd take that live truck and go live.
Yeah.
We had a consultant that came into town. And he watched me anchor the news and my news reports, and then met with him afterwards. He goes, "Look, you do a really good job at news. You're very professional, but when you did that sports live shot, your personality came out. You were a different person." He says, "I'm not telling you to leave, because we want you to stay at this station, but I know the next time you send out tapes, send out a news tape, send out some sports tapes, and see what happens." And so that's what I did, and I got no calls on news. And everybody
All
called
calls
me
on
for my
sports.
sports.
And the weird thing about that is, because I did sports. I moved to news because more
Backwards.
money.
Uh-huh.
It's more money
Yeah.
in news than
Yep.
it is. I love sports. I still want to do sports, but it's so much more money. When I tell you it's so much more money in news than it is in sports. If I go back to sports,
Let me
you
make a note of
better
that.
you better have some good money. But
And the competition's a lot more fierce in sports to get
Yeah.
sports
Yeah.
jobs because you got so many guys, and now women want to do sports.
Mhm.
And so when when I have an opening for a weekend guy or a weekend position, I should say,
Gal.
yes,
I'm gonna throw that in there.
I get. I mean, it's crazy the number of resumes that are sent to us, and if there's a news opening, it's not nearly as fierce of the competition.
because news, man, it's so weird because in sports, I remember when I was there with you guys, I learned everything from Wes and Craig because I was so raw with everything that I did, and I actually had to polish some things. I watched Craig, and Craig had better writing, so I learned how to write from Craig, and watch Wes, and I would do shows, and I'd have local, national, and then I'd watch Wes, and Wes would go local. I started going, man. So every time I would work and he wasn't there, I'd go, now how would Wes put this show together?
What would Wes do?
Local. But I really want to put this national story in. It was, nope, local. And so I had to polish just by watching them. I'm pretty sure I had 1,000 weird things. I kept saying, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? And he was like, no, you can't do that because we're doing it this way. Well, why are we doing it that way? Because that's what we said we're going to do. I was like, oh, okay, all right. But in news, it's so different because you can't ad-lib. Everything is sitting right here in front of you. And you have to just read it the way it is. And so sometimes I find myself reading. And the camera's not on me, but I'll make funny faces like, and then this is exactly what the people said. I hate it, but there's so much more money in news than it is sports. So talk about the transition, man, to being a Razorback fan. I know you're from Texas. I know you're a Cowboys fan. I don't know why you're a Rangers fan, not a Yankees fan.
It's tough.
But it's tough on y'all right now. Yeah.
It is. They're overachieving a little bit this year. They struggled the last week or so, but growing up in Texas, the Dallas market was what we watched, and so automatically when you're force-fed, I guess, shoveled Cowboys news, Rangers news, Mavericks news, you just become a fan of those teams.
Right.
And then when we'd go to see games, that's who we went to see. We went to see the Cowboys or the Rangers or the Mavericks. So it was easy to become those kind of fans. Growing up in East Texas, I was never a college football fan. Saturdays we were out playing ball. We were doing something on Saturday. Sundays, you went to church. We went to my grandmother's and we watched football. We watched the Cowboys. We watched the 3:00 game. It was all about the NFL. And so when it came time to go to a college, I wasn't one of those guys that, I got to go to A&M or I got to go to Texas because of football.
Right.
I want to watch these games.
Right.
And so that wasn't ever a part of my focus. And even in the first couple of markets when I was doing news, I wasn't a college football fan. It was crazy.
Wow.
I would go, the only college games I would ever go to when I was working in TV in Texas is to cover some of our local high school kids that had moved on to Texas A&M or moved on to Texas.
Right.
And so that was my first experience. Growing up, it was all about the Southwest Conference, or even a little bit later, it's the Big 12.
Yeah.
I didn't like the SEC. I thought the SEC was obnoxious.
Come on,
all
man.
those SEC fans, I don't think they're better than the Big 12 or the Southwest Conference. And so then I moved to Little Rock, and you get in the
Yeah.
SEC.
That's how you get SEC.
You're like, oh,
That's
the
right.
SEC's legit. This is
a
the
real
real deal.
deal.
Turning point.
It reminds me of the story back in 1990 when Nolan Richardson was coaching up at Fayetteville, and they had, which we thought at the time, I was playing at Henderson, and so we thought, man, the Razorbacks, because back when I first got in college, we would always think, man, any team you can go, Hendrix could beat University of Arkansas. I mean, because we had squads. Every school had a squad, and we would always think, we could probably compete with the Razorbacks. But they might win a little later on. They're our ones match their ones, but our twos don't match their twos.
Yeah.
So so we coming up, we see that, and Nolan Richardson had a squad with Todd Day and Lee Mayberry, Big Oliver Miller, and we were thought, man, this is the best squad I've seen in forever. And then UNLV comes to town, and Larry Johnson slam dunks the basketball, walks over to Nolan Richardson and said, hey, man, you better get you some men out here. And we were like, What? So that's what SEC reminds me of. You go to cover the SEC, man, there's some real dudes in there, like some dudes.
The first couple of years, covering the Razorbacks, I wouldn't say I was so much a fan. That was part of the job, and I felt like I could keep it, in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But then the more you cover high school football, you get to know these high school kids. Then they go to the University of Arkansas. You root for those kids. I wasn't finding myself so much as rooting for the Razorbacks. I wanted those guys to do well and succeed. And so that's really how I became a Razorback fan, through covering all these guys in high school, getting to know them. And then you want them to go off to college, do well, play well, win championships, and go on to the NFL, NBA, or wherever.
On that note, do you remember one of the first stories you did when we were at THV?
I know exactly what the first story I ever did.
Which one?
The very first day I was there, I was sent to War Memorial Stadium to cover a wedding.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm
Wait,
talking about
what?
Yes.
Whose wedding?
I'm like a wedding.
Who had a wedding?
Somebody rented out the stadium. They had a wedding. I'm there. And look, this is like the
Is
third
it
day
sports?
from the
That's what I was
from
like,
Victoria,
what?
but they thought it was odd, a wedding being held at War Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I walk in and I see somebody. I'm like, I know them. And they go, Wes? And I was like, yes. They go, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I
What
work
are
here.
you doing
I'm
here?
What are you
like-
doing here?
And I'm like, how do I know you? We're from Victoria, Texas.
Really?
Yeah, and they were part of the wedding party.
Wow.
How small of a world is that?
That's a small
But that
world.
was my first package ever at THV, covering a wedding at War Memorial
But
Stadium.
you're talking sports.
I'm talking about sports because I remember particular the triplets down at Bryant, the Grapp triplets. You remember the Grapp triplets?
Yep.
It was three of them. So
Okay.
so when he was talking about, you watch these guys in high school and you watch. They went on. Two of them went on to play at Arkansas Tech, I think it was, and so the other one decided she didn't want to play. But the Grapp triplets was one of the first stories that I remember Wes covering, and then I started going because I had to learn how to do sports stories, and I had to learn by watching everybody, and so it was a quick tutorial. It wasn't one of those times where you had to go to class. You just like watch Wes' story,
Figure it
watch
out.
Craig's story,
Pick
figure
up
it
on
out.
it.
So
See, I started in July. You started in like
December.
December. I was thinking November or December.
Yeah, it was December of 2003.
I was
what it was.
I was there for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And they moved Chris Shaw. You remember Chris Shaw?
I remember Chris Shaw.
He was the weekend sports guy, and they moved him to news because he wanted to do news, but his girlfriend was hired to be a producer, and so he took a job, just any job he could get, and it was a weekend sports guy, and they had the understanding as soon as they could, they were going to move him to news, so they hired me, moved him to news, moved me up, and then hired Mark.
I never had a fear of a producer except Chris Shaw's wife.
Really?
She would make time if I did a package and she said I'll give you a minute 15. If I did a minute 20 package, she'd say it's too long. I'm cutting it. And I went to her one day. I went to her one day. I was like, "Can you cut me some slack?" She was like, "Nope." Because if I cut you some slack, I gotta cut somebody else some slack.
Yep.
I feared that girl for the longest, and then I just started learning how to cut my stuff down, cut my time
I'm starting
down.
to learn. There's something with you in time.
Yeah, man, it was
starting
real
to pick up
weird.
on that.
Yeah, it was real weird. That's just how we did it. But I remember, talking about that. But Wes didn't want to get on Twitter. I was probably the first one at THV on social media.
Yeah.
Wes wouldn't get on Twitter, and so I said, "Wes, you got to get on Twitter." And every day I'd come in, I'm rolling through Twitter, and I said, "Wes, you got to get on Twitter." He's like, man, I don't want to do any of that. So then one day he walked in. I said, "I'm signing you up on Twitter."
That's where it's at, though.
He did. He
Yeah,
signed
social
me up.
media, that's
Signed him up on
yeah.
Twitter. The next day, I said, he came in and said, "Did you check your Twitter?" He said, "Nope." I said, "Sit down. Let's check your Twitter." So we checked the Twitter, and that's when, what was the receiver's name?
I was going to say, how many followers?
What was the
would we
receiver
get?
the Cowboys had? It broke his leg in practice. Des Bryant broke his leg or broke his ankle or something. And we were reading it, and he goes, "Is that today?" I said, yes. Call down to CBS in Dallas. See if they can get the feed. If they got the feed, they were at practice. And we got it up that day and actually played it. But that was like at 2 o'clock. We were sitting in the office, and he was like, "Is that real?"
Real time.
Real time.
And now
real
he's
time.
on Twitter
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
How many followers you got, Wes?
Honestly, I don't know. I abandoned basically Facebook for Twitter. I can't. See,
Wow.
that's my
Can't-
problem.
can't
I
do
can't
that.
do both. I
Yeah,
can't.
you got to do both.
I still get on Facebook from time to time, but
Yeah.
when I'm checking in on social
Yeah.
media,
Twitter, because
it's
everything's
Twitter.
Where
now.
it's at, yeah.
yeah, I do all
Mhm.
Twitter because I found that it's more. Twitter's sports based to me, and
Yeah.
if you do it
Okay.
right, and I feel like I've done it right, I follow a bunch of reporters.
Yep.
Mhm.
I don't follow followers. I don't follow people, just
Yeah.
guys on the
Random
street.
people.
I
Yeah.
follow so that my feed is clean, and I use that as basically a news service.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
if it's SEC Media Days or Big 10 or Big 12, whatever,
From
I,
there.
I'm seeing my news come in. It's
Yeah.
almost like my ESPN.
Right.
Yeah.
I can just
Right.
I know what's going on by keeping up
Right.
with Twitter. I'll get on Facebook from time to time, but people now get on to me about Instagram. They're like, "You need to be on Instagram." I'm like, I don't have time. I can't even get onto Facebook. And, Twitter's taking up all my
Pictures?
time.
Right.
See,
Yeah, if I
Instagram
want
is
to post
all
a picture, I'll
pictures.
put it on
It
Twitter.
is, it is.
Instagram's all pictures. I don't really get the love behind it because it's all pictures.
It's just based on likes.
But they're taking the
It
likes
is.
off of it now. Did
Yes,
you know
they
that?
are.
Yeah,
now.
I heard
They
that. I
are,
saw
yeah.
that.
They're taking the
It's not
likes
worth
off,
like-
which is that going to help? How does that help?
Stick with Twitter. Get your news.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
get your
I'm
stories.
very
Make
happy
it
with
easier.
Twitter.
News
All
feed.
because of Mark
Yeah.
Edwards.
Hey, there you
started
go.
it. You
I
started
started it.
I got my 10-year anniversary note from Twitter last week, and I
From your
I
first
thought of
one.
Mark. I was like,
no
well,
idea.
it would have been for Mark. I would have had a
You're on
10-year
your first
anniversary.
tweet.
Would have been on. So talk about how news has changed a little bit because I know with being at the company I'm with now, I mean everything is social media driven.
Mhm.
Everything is less sports unless it's a sports story like a major sports story. Because I know in
Yeah.
some markets, man, they look at the sports people and say, "What do you have?" And if it's not important, they may give you a minute. They don't even give you 3
Wow.
minutes. They may give you a minute.
I guess I'm an exception to the rule at
Yeah.
Fox. They're great to us, and
Yeah.
they understand the importance to sports. I probably, and here just recently they gave me 30 more seconds. I get 5 minutes every
Out of
night.
town.
Yeah, I get 5 minutes every night.
Wow.
Of course, now we have an hour-long newscast on Fox, but
Right.
it used to be 4.5 minutes, and then we got a new producer, and maybe she's lazy, maybe I don't know, or maybe she just knows I usually
Maybe
go
she
over.
Just
Right.
watch this.
I go
She
over
gonna help you with
anyway,
your
so
time, don't worry about
might as well give him 5 because his 4:30 turns into 5. But so I get 5 minutes. But Fox has made an effort, and that's when they hired me. I guess that's now been 2013, 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago. They're like, we need to make a name for Fox Sports.
Right.
We feel like with Donna, Terrell, Kevin Kelly, people know what they're getting on the news side.
Man.
But they just weren't ever able to make a name, create a niche on Fox Sports. So I was like, dude, we can do that, and let's own high school football. And they're like, we love it, let's do it. And so we teamed up with Fearless Friday, the website fearlessfriday.com. And I mean, we blow out high school football, and we do the same for basketball, and we try to do it for baseball. But in the fall we'll have 2 30-minute shows on every Friday night, 9:30 to 10, and then from
That's what I
10:30 to 11:05. So it's a 35-minute show.
Yeah.
They give me all kinds of just whatever I need. Photographers, reporters. We got news reporters that come over and go out live for us. We'll have 5 live shots on Friday nights, and I'll just send them to the game of the week. And I explain it like NFL Red Zone.
Yeah.
And we just bounce around from game to game to game to get updates. When a game's over, we'll interview a coach, and just it's a lot. It's a live-based show. So there's not a whole lot of me doing highlights. It's me basically tossing out to the reporter in the field.
They're doing it.
They're doing it.
I still remember, one of the things we did at I felt like the crew we had at THV was groundbreaking because we started shooting our own stand-ups. I would go to Fayetteville, and Wes would say, shoot enough stuff that we can run the whole week. And I'd go to Fayetteville, and we'd do stand-ups for this day, stand-ups for that day, 6 o'clock stuff, 10 o'clock. We thought the actual shows out every week in the beginning of the week. So I felt like we were groundbreaking. But now I hated we just started doing high school football, and they gave Wes more time. And I remember going, Wes, dude, we're not going to be able to fill that kind of time. He's like, yeah, we are. I was like, how are we going to fill that kind of time? He said, we got to do two to three games apiece. There's no way we're going to do 2 to 3 games apiece. He said, yeah, you are. You're going to go to Carlisle today. You're going to get there at the start of the game. You're going to get a few highlights. You're going to leave there. You're going to go down the street to Lone Oak. When you get to Lone Oak, you get a few highlights. And on your way back to the studio, stop by here. I was like, dude, I'm not doing all that. And then it's like, there's no way we're going to do all that. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, we're pulling all this stuff together. We got people out shooting everything. And then we were filling the last 8 minutes of the show or something like that.
Yeah, they
It's
did.
such
Well,
a-
you remember they
Highlights.
did 11 on 11, took a
Yeah.
commercial break, did a quick weather,
right.
and then came to us. So I think we were going from about 10:20
Easy.
to 10:35. So I think we were doing 15 minutes.
Easy.
Okay.
15 minutes is just straight highlights. But then you made the move over to Fox. Like everybody just like left. And you made the move over to Fox, and I was like, look, I mean, if we don't do the effort that they're doing at those other stations, man, it's not going to be good.
Mhm.
And so everybody put forth and put an effort into everything, and we just didn't do that. But
It takes a commitment from
Yeah.
management.
Yeah.
And like I
Takes a
said,
commitment.
when they're taking news reporters on a Friday, pulling them off of news and doing football, I mean, that shows the
Yeah.
commitment, and that's how
Yeah.
we're able to do two
Mhm.
30-minute shows every Friday night. And the photographers, I mean, there's probably 5 photographers that's
Yeah.
going out for me every Friday
Yeah.
night.
Okay.
And then it helps that we have a network around the state. You know, we have a station in Fayetteville that sends us
Mhm.
their
Mhm.
highlights. We work
Mhm.
with the Jonesboro station. We've got an affiliate in El Dorado, and so they send us a couple of
Okay.
southeast
good.
Texas
Yeah.
or southeast Arkansas games, and then we got an affiliate in Texarkana. So they send us a
Pretty good.
couple of southwest Arkansas games. So then that's how we're able to get 25, 26 different games on our
And-
10:30
One
show.
time.
and
Yeah.
you don't need a lot. I mean, if you get a couple of highlights and show the score,
Yeah.
that's
Go-
pretty much
yeah.
all you
I
want
mean,
to do.
you think about a good football highlight, it probably lasts 8 to 10 seconds. You get two of them, that's a 20-second VO right there, and you
Right
show the
there.
score, and it's 25 seconds.
But the sad part back then was Oak Grove had this guy named Darren McFadden,
Mhm.
and the coach. Here's how crazy it was. He knew we didn't have a lot of time, so if you got there with about 8 minutes to go in the second quarter, bro, he's not giving Darren the ball. Darren wouldn't get the ball till he made you wait until after halftime before
order
he
to get
gave
your
Darren the ball.
Yep.
They were already ahead by then anyway.
Mhm.
So if you weren't there in the beginning, he made you wait.
I remember one time and it was a game against Alma. I was in Fayetteville covering the Razorbacks, drove down to Alma to cover this game.
Was that the mud when it was
And
slick?
it had rained, and they turned on the
Oh, yeah.
sprinklers.
They turned the
Oh.
sprinklers
Yeah.
on to slow
Slow it
Darren
down.
down. Yeah.
And there was one. He had one good run, and it was like 60 yards. And I
Yeah.
stayed there the entire half because I didn't have to go anywhere else.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And they slowed him down and muck in the mud.
Apparently, it
Wow.
rained that week, and then the field dried out. So they felt like the only way they were going to slow him down
was to,
is to
wet
wet
back
the
up.
field back up,
Turn the sprinklers on.
Yeah.
turn the sprinklers back on, and so he wouldn't be able to do what he needed to do. And it worked.
Mm.
So, you said we sent you out a little thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So you said the greatest decision. I don't know why I'm going to say this because I know when I see her, this is going to be a conversation. You said the greatest thing you've done was marry Allison.
Good
Heck
man.
yeah.
Good answer. Good answer. Good answer.
Behind every great man is a great
You
woman,
better
right?
say it. I like
man,
that.
You're
Come
making
on
it
now,
hard for the
man.
brothers,
Right.
man. You're making it hard for brothers.
Man, I think the best things that ever happened in my life. It's the marriage, the 2 kids. Without her, I don't have the 2 daughters, and her being in this business, it helps me tremendously because it is a difficult business with strange hours.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
not come Friday or come the weekend or the fall. There's no
Dude.
Monday
Yeah,
through Friday.
right.
It's all of
Man.
a sudden Tuesday through Saturday, and then you may be traveling on Sunday. But she gets it because she knows
Yeah.
the business
Yeah.
and she understands what I have to do. And so to have that kind of support system for my career, it's been great. And I hope I've been great for her.
Yeah.
I'm very
Right.
proud of what she's been able to do at Channel 7 as the morning anchor. And I think we're a great team. And we have opposite schedules, so it works great for raising the kids in
Yeah.
the fall.
And you
during
got to have
school.
that. You got to
You
have
do.
that.
You gotta have that balance.
Yeah.
I get them up.
You
I get the
do.
girls up. I help them.
Yeah.
Well, now they can get dressed on their own, but
Do
I
you-
feed them
do
and
you
take
make
them to
bre-
school.
You make breakfast. Now, if I remember, listen, you want to have some great funny stories, Wes?
Let me take away from my questions, but come on, I'll listen to it.
Wes and Allison, because Allison doesn't cook.
She used to not
Really?
cook.
She used to.
Really?
She's cooking now.
Yeah.
Get out of town. I remember, Allison didn't cook, so Wes
you were
did
the
all
chef
the
of the
cooking.
house.
Oh yeah, I cooked everything. She couldn't cook toast. I mean,
Oh.
She burned
Oh.
water. I mean, she was bad. Yeah.
it was bad. But we got on what's those meals that you come to? They mail to you.
Oh,
be boxed
yeah.
up.
So many kinds, but
yeah, but there's several now.
Yeah.
So she got onto that. And it's got detailed, instructions, and it's got everything
Stop it.
already.
Yeah.
The
Oh, wait till I
perfect
see it.
measurements.
But see, everybody didn't grow up in the kitchen like that.
Blue
I didn't.
Apron. Blue Apron's what it
I
was
didn't
called.
either.
What is it?
My people
Yep.
kept me out of the kitchen, so I didn't learn how to cook till college at Henderson State.
Really?
I didn't know.
And so I think that kind of broke the ice for her, and then she realized, oh, I can cook. You know, you can do this.
Let's not get too fast.
It was good. So now she does all the cooking. You know, like I said, I take the girls to school. Then I go off to I got the radio show. Then I go to the TV job, and I'll come home. I get a good dinner break, and I'll come home, and she's usually got something fixed.
Man,
or if they're out, we'll meet and go out to eat at a restaurant. And but I get to spend quality time at home with them during the evenings. Then come back and do the 9 o'clock news when they're getting ready for bed, basically. So I don't miss a whole lot. And,
shocked.
But she's able to take care of the girls in the afternoon, and she's great. No, it's great.
We all work together. So Allison on the weekends was the weekend producer.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to a point where I was doing highlights. She would go, "Yeah, your highlights are boring me." I was like, "Are they boring?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, let's spice them up." She said, "All right, from now on, while you're doing the highlights, I'm gonna say a word in your ear, and I want you to work that into the highlights." So. I got started doing that with Michael Smith. When Michael Smith would be on the air, his favorite thing would be he would text me and say poppycock popcorn. say it. I was like, dude, text him back. I can't do that. But Allison would say in my ear a word, and I'd have to work it into my highlight. And if I couldn't, she'd go, boring.
Oh, wow.
You know, she was my morning show producer, and one time in Shreveport, we had like Miss Teen USA on the morning show. And I'm doing the interview, and she's in my IFB in my ear talking to me. Ask her this or ask her that. And, well, I was going to do that. You know, that's my next question. And then she ask her this and ask her that. And so if I pull out my IFB, because it's a tight shot on the Miss Teen USA, and that's why I'm not on camera, but she can see me. I pull out my IFB, hold it like this, and drop it. So she knows.
Oh, boy.
I don't need you talking in my ear.
My ear.
The funny thing is, she couldn't stand me when we first met. She
I
said
was
she
ask,
told the
how
story.
did that work out for you
She
working
said
with
she
her?
went home crying several times. I made her so mad. She hated working with me, and it was just that I was a jerk. And she was engaged. She was engaged when she started
Wes.
working at the
Wes.
TV
Wes.
station. Yeah,
Fuck your jelly.
yeah. And so, a couple months go by, and then she's no longer engaged. And a couple months go by, and all of a sudden she doesn't hate me anymore. And we started dating, and the rest is history.
There
Yeah, but it didn't start off all love at first sight for her. I mean, when she walked in, I was like, oh, wow. My news director had already sat me down and said, we've hired you a new morning show producer. Wes, hands off. Those were the 2 words she told me.
Really?
Hands off. I'm like, what are you talking about?
So, Wes, did you have a reputation?
I guess. I'm like, what?
What's going on?
Me,
I'm
good. I'm good. I'm
knowing
not.
Allison like I know her, I cannot believe.
Wow.
I could not believe that.
And she walked in, I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, this may be a little bit tougher, but it worked out great.
Well, it's all good.
Hey, let's play a quick game, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So since it's Wes, we're going to do WWWD.
Okay. What would Wes do?
Wes
What would
do?
Wes do?
Okay.
So let's
right.
see. First off, what would Wes do? Frosted Flakes or Captain Crunch?
Captain
What would Wes
Crunch.
do? Really?
Yeah. But I
Okay.
got a little sweet tooth. I'll admit it. I go on these health kicks and try to work out and try to, not drink as much and drink a lot of water. And so I would do, some cornflakes with some blueberries in there, or maybe chop up some strawberries.
Blueberries and cornflakes.
Yeah. Oh, blueberries, man.
He said that's good.
That's good for you, man. The
I'm-
more blueberries you eat, the better.
I'm good with the blueberries, but cornflakes?
Hey.
You got to have a little
That's
sweetness
what
in there.
Man,
I'm not going to put any sugar, but no, right now I'm not on a health kick, so I'd go straight to that sugary stuff.
Okay, and I'm sure you got adapted once you moved to Arkansas, so I got to ask you, is it going to be Yarnell's or Bluebell?
After the viral video of
Oh, my
Bluebell.
gosh. I'm still Bluebell.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the other day for National
Okay.
Hot Dog Day, we were
Okay.
cooking hot dogs at the radio station, and Bluebell came and brought a bunch of ice cream sandwiches, and I knocked those things out. I love Bluebell. When I was in Victoria, Texas, I had a segment, and it was called Wednesday's Getaways, and it was back, if y'all remember, you may not remember, y'all are too young, in the
I'm the same age as you are. What are you talking about?
early 2000s, like 2000, 2001, gas got just outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, it was outrageous. And so people couldn't afford to travel. So this whole segment was like where you could go around Victoria on a tank of gas and have fun.
That's pretty cool.
So we went to the Bluebell factory, toured it. They have a tour you can take in Brenham. And so we went to Bluebell and did the whole thing, and they gave us a bunch of ice cream. But
Bluebell
I've
fish.
always been a Bluebell
That's
guy.
usually how it works. But I mean, ever since the viral video of the girl picking the Bluebell and licking
putting
the
it back
Bluebell,
in, yeah.
I'm
And the
scared to
spin-off
buy it at the
videos.
store.
I am too.
I don't even know if I want to buy ice cream at the store. Any ice cream, not just that.
We decided we're going to get an ice cream maker and just make homemade ice cream.
That'll be good.
With Allison cooking now?
I don't know the last time I had
take up
homemade
for
ice
Allison.
cream. When's the last
Allison,
time
I
you
got
had
you, man.
homemade
You gonna
ice
have to
cream?
stop that.
I don't know. It's been a while. Probably I was in my teens easily.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I had.
We had a family reunion last week, and I was excited because I just knew somebody was going to make
Homemade ice cream.
and they didn't. No one did.
Tell us something that we don't know about you.
Something you don't know about me.
Interesting fact.
Probably because of my daughters. I'm now into musicals. They're actresses.
Really?
They act.
Okay.
Right now, one of my
right.
daughters is in Mary Poppins. They've been in Sound of Music. I mean, all these different musicals, and so they're always rehearsing, practicing, and so I hear all these songs.
Do you help read the lines?
I do help them
can we
on
see
occasion read
possibly
some
a clip of Wes
lines.
singing?
No,
Helping the
I
daughters
don't
with the tones and the
sing.
pitch?
I help read the line.
okay.
You know,
I
like
was
if
about to say you sing. I
no.
want
I
maybe Allison can send us a clip of that.
no, when they have like some sides that they have to rehearse, or if they're doing an audition, a lot of times they do video auditions for Disney or whatever. You have to have someone reading the other lines.
Right.
Now you're supposed to be monotone, and so that the focus is on
them.
yeah. So you just read the lines.
All right, man. But before we let you go, you gotta tell us a story. It could be a story from back in the day. It could be a story where we worked at THV. Any story that you still think about to this day that will blow us all away.
One of the funniest stories, and it was one of the longest days I've had in my life. It was Arkansas versus Kentucky. And Craig O'Neill and I flew out and I think it was 03, 04. It was right after I started there. I'm not sure what year.
Okay.
And so Craig's a huge horse racing fan. We get up. Our flight is Saturday. And Saturday morning, the game was that night. So we got up and left Little Rock at 5 a.m. And so that means you get up at like at 2:30, get to the airport.
Right.
And fly, because, back then you had to be there 2 hours before.
Yeah.
It's gotten a little laxer.
Right
You can get to
right after 9/11.
Yep. Yeah. So I get up at like 2:30 in the morning, get to the airport. We fly in to Lexington. We rent a car. We go to Louisville. He wants to go to this horse farm because Holy Bull is his favorite horse of all time. Holy Bull.
Okay.
And Holy Bull is there at this horse farm, and he's a stud horse now. He's just running around and creating babies, but he's in this So Holy Bull, they bring Holy Bull out for us, and Craig's Googling over him. He's all, and I'm shooting all this, and so they get Holy Bull to the gate, and he's like, get this shot. This is going to be awesome. They're going to open up the gate, and that horse is going to take out running, and it's going to be
This is great.
majestic.
This is
He's
great.
going to be,
Right.
and it's this lush green pasture. Just it is. It's really beautiful. And he's like, just be on the horse, and when he takes off running, get a tight shot, and then pull out, and it's going to be, man, this is the money shot. This is the money shot. I got it, Craig. Okay, they open up the gate. I'm focused in. I start zooming out. Holy Bull takes off running, stops. Raises the tail, takes a big dump right in front of us. That's the money shot. Way to go, Craig.
That's what he wanted you to know right there, Craig.
So to finish the story, we shoot this. We get to the stadium. We do our pregame. You got to do all, your live shot, live bow shot, talk with the fans. Back then, we were part of a network, and we were doing an hour pregame show, so we had to do another package for some show we got to send off. So we work and do our live shot at 6 o'clock. We're done at 6:30. Game starts in an hour at 7:30, and I remember sitting in the SAT truck after the live shot going, I'm worn out. I hope this is just a quick, easy game. We can get out of here because I'm shooting all this.
Kentucky games was never easy.
It was a 7 overtime game.
The Kentucky games were never
overtime?
easy.
7 overtime game with Matt Jones and big Jared Lorenzen, who just passed away.
Yep.
That was the 7 overtime game. We got back to the hotel that night. I remember laying in the bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. I almost had been up for 24 hours straight, and I couldn't sleep because of the adrenaline of going through that 7 overtime game and just it's what I just saw. It was an amazing day, and I was just laying in bed going, I am physically worn out, and I cannot go to sleep. What is going on?
Best Kentucky memory I remember from the game was we were doing a live shot. Neil and I went to Kentucky. Wes was back here. Mm-hmm. So I'm set up right outside the stadium. This is before the game started. The people from Kentucky had a pig that they were cooking on the little thing. They were roasting him.
Roasting a pig.
Behind me. I didn't know it. So I'm talking to Wes back and forth. He was like, all right, Mark, listen, don't look behind you. Let's go in the game. Don't look behind me.
What's going on?
Well, okay, cool. So we get through with the live shot. I turn around, these fools was roasting the pig
whole
behind me.
pig.
Hey, man, where in the world you got me? It's my first time in Kentucky. So, I'm easily spooked now.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to the game. Arkansas is killing it. Razorbacks killing the game. I walk out. I'm ready to do the live shot. I keep hearing, what is going on? Like 2 or 3 minutes left. Kentucky comes back and wins the game. All the highlights that I had were for naught. Because Kentucky won. All the big stuff happened when I walked out of the game.
Right.
Michael Smith had a huge game that day.
Huge game.
Yep.
And they lost the game. Kentucky fans coming out screaming. Neil, they was throwing stuff at us, talking trash to us. I was like, hey,
And
Wes.
the hog was still being turned on.
Say, man, this is my last time.
Coming up here.
That
my
was
last time coming up here.
Petrino's first year because we were comparing that meltdown to what happened with Chad Morris in Colorado State and just the similarities of having a game under control and blowing it. And then it just kind of spirals out of control.
And what's so strange about it was it all happened as I was walking out. From the time I left the press box to the time I got down, it was crazy. That was crazy. But anyway, man, listen, thanks for coming on the show, man.
That
We
was
appreciate
fun.
it, brother.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
anytime.
you.
Hey, I had a question for you. We were
Uh-oh.
talking about this the other day.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Where was it? What year was it when you got run over in the parking lot?
Oh,
trying
do
to-
tell. This is a good story.
You
I
didn't hear
missed
about
it.
that?
No, I
It
missed
was
that one.
2007. It was the NCAA tournament, Spokane, Washington.
Spokane.
And what happened was Neil and I got there, and Neil was driving. We stayed at the Red Lion, and the way that the hotel is set up, the streets up here, the streets go around. The hotel sits down, and the parking lot sits down, but there was no rail. So in one part of the parking lot, if you were looking up at the street, it's kind of like the overpass where they used to shoot ball under 12th Street, Canis Park.
Yeah, Canis.
There's no rails, so when you pulled up, if somebody wasn't paying attention, they were driving this way. They had to swerve to the right. So if they weren't paying attention, they would drive across the lane and down into the parking lot. And it was about 5 parking spaces that would, if you came off, you would hit one of the cars in the 5 parking spaces. Well, when we left, there was no one in the parking space. And I remember telling the bellhop, I was like, yo, excuse me, let me ask you a question. Because I think about stuff like this. So I was like, hey, listen, there's about 5 parking spaces over there where if somebody comes up, because there's no rail up there. If somebody comes off that street, they're going to hit somebody. He goes, that's never happened. It's like, okay. Neil and I go off, we shoot our stuff, come back. And now when we come back, the parking lot is full except for those 5 parking spaces.
Somebody knew better.
Now I'm driving, and so I said, I don't want to park in this one. So I drove on, and I parked in the last one. So our car's like sitting in the last one. Neil and I sitting there talking. And he goes, well, let's hurry up, get this stuff shot, send it in. It's like, okay. Neil gets out the car. I get out the car. At that time, a 4Runner missed the turn, comes over the top, and lands on the car. Neil got out and was standing in the back passenger. And I got out, and when I closed the door, the driver's side door, I looked up, and all I saw was a 4Runner underneath. I was, what in the world? And when it came down, the front end went boom. And then it hit the front passenger side, and the car spun around. When the car spun around, it hit me.
Wow.
I flew back about 40 yards on the concrete.
What was your reaction?
Sliding. They didn't know. So Neil
We're
and
back in Little Rock.
They're back in Little Rock. They didn't know.
And we got a call. Mark got run over. We're like,
I was like, so I slid across the
like, wait a
parking
minute.
lot. When I slid across the parking lot, I was thinking, man, I know there's going to be a car coming behind me. It's going to hit me. And that's going to be it.
Gonna be it.
So once I stopped sliding, it was at least 30 yards. Once I stopped sliding, I hit the bump of one of the parking where you park at. And I got up and I went, oh, man, I'm dizzy. So I stood up. I walk over. Neil goes, dude, you all right? I said, yeah, man. My behind hurt.
I'm hurting. Right.
And so he goes, man, we shouldn't have. Because what made us what made us so late was we stayed and watched Kevin Durant shoot half-court shots underhanded. So when we leave, we back in the parking lot. I just got hit. Dude who's in the 4Runner was high. It happened. And I remember looking at the bellhop when he came out. I was like, dude, you said this never
does not
happened.
happen.
And then they call an ambulance. So I'm sitting in the back of the ambulance. The ambulance is taking my blood pressure. And the guy takes his stuff off and he goes, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "You sure?" I was like, "Yeah." He's taking my blood pressure. And he said, "Do I need to give you an IV?" I said, "Here." He was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah." So he gets ready. He puts the IV in. Guy comes up, "Man, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry."
Mm-hmm.
Neil's taking pictures of everything.
Of everything.
I'm like, I gotta get to my live shot. I gotta get. So we get to the hospital, and they put me on the operating table. Nurses scrambling around, doctors coming in, and I'm sitting there looking like, God, y'all, somebody, my mom, because my behind
right,
was
it's hurting.
Because I slid 30
all the way
yards
across
on
the
it.
right.
I'm like, man, can somebody stop this pain right here? And the doctor walks over to me. He goes, "Are you okay?" I said, "Man, if you ask me that one more time." Everybody keeps asking me that. He said, "You just got hit by a 2-ton car. Your blood pressure is normal, and you're just as calm as ever." I said, "Man, I got a live shot to get to.
Wow.
So can we hurry up and get this done?"
I just
We
need to
get
be done. I
through.
gotta get to my shot.
I limp out of the hospital. Neil is dying laughing because I got a big bruise on my
Oh, my
behind
goodness.
and I had
Yeah.
stuff on. So he's laughing. He's like, "Dude, I don't know how we're going to do this live shot." I was like, "Man, we got to do this live shot." So they had me propped up on something to do the live shot. I'm sitting right next to J.A. Adande. He just, you know how they do NCAA live shots. Everybody's like lined up. And so J.A. Adande just did his for ESPN. So they slide down to me and I'm sitting there and I'm going, "Oh." And Craig gets on the air and he goes,
Oh.
"We heard you got hit by a car." And I went, "Pan out, Neil." So he panned out and I'm sitting in like this little wheelchair thing.
Oh,
He goes,
wow.
"Wow, did you really get hit?" "Yes, man." Yeah. Anyway, we do our live show. I just had to get back and deal. If I could deal with the pain, I was good. And we finished the live shots, did everything we were supposed to do that week. But that was all the 2007 NCAA
That's
tournament.
dedication, though.
That ain't
That's it. He got
dedication.
that live shot. Look, you got that live shot. Hey, I gotta go. Wheelchair, pads,
Told the doctor, I
pillow,
was
and
like,
all. Let's go.
"Man, look, can somebody? I got a live shot. Can somebody hurry up so I can get to my live shot?" But that was 2007.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Hey man, thanks for joining the
That
show,
was
brother.
fun.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you
Glad
soon.
you
Thanks
had
for
me.
coming in.
Hey, remember to go on Facebook, go on Instagram, and go on our YouTube page. Like us, man. We'd love for you to follow us. Keep up with Wess Moore.
Yes.
You can find him on Fox 16
Yep.
every night, and The Zone, 103.7 The Buzz.
Yep. 10 to 1.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. See you next week.
Hey. All right.
Hey, you want to watch this for just a second?